So when I was putting my plastics recycling documentary together, I received quite a few strong comments from people I interviewed about how a lot of chemical plastic recycling is BS. I took the editorial decision not to include some of those comments, as it was said to me, largely because it became too complex to explain the nuances that were embedded in those comments. So this video is an attempt to include some of those comments and explain a little bit the nuances, particularly the differences between how the EU works and the US works, and the danger of greenwashing, pretending that something is being done for the environment, but actually the figures don't stack up. So first of all, let's hear the comments of the two people I interviewed who did make the point that a lot of chemical recycling is just BS.
First, and I would say really one of the biggest issues is that a majority of chemical recycling facilities are not actually recycling any plastic. They're making fuels that will be burned, and that's not recycling. So in that case, calling it recycling is really quite misleading and a misnomer, because the benefits of recycling, you get that when materials re-enter the production cycle. So the whole point of recycling is to reduce the pressure to extract virgin resources, whether that's fossil fuels when you're talking about plastic, or trees if you're talking about paper, for example. When you actually recycle and make new paper or make new plastic out of existing materials, theoretically, right, then you don't have to cut down more trees or extract more fossil fuels. You're replacing that stream. But if instead, with what some of these chemical recycling facilities are doing, many of them actually taking the plastic and making fuels, then those fuels are burned, poof, that material is gone. It's up in the sky as pollution. Those materials cannot re-enter the production cycle, and you get none of the benefits of recycling. So this problem that a lot of chemical recycling facilities are making fuels is huge in terms of why chemical recycling is not going to help solve plastic pollution, because when you make fuels, you do not reduce the pressure to make new plastic whatsoever.
And a lot of chemical recycling approaches that people are using, they really end up with most of the material burned at some point or another, whether as a replacement fuel or even just burned in the process of carrying out the chemical conversions that are being done in order to make heat. So that's not really recycling, is it? If only a small fraction of the material ends up going back into plastic or basically anything other than fuel, it's just incineration that's been moved aside one step to make it more socially and politically acceptable.
So data from the Environmental Protection Agency in the US does actually back up some of those claims. And this data comes from 2018. It's not possible to get data in quite the same format any more recently than that. Not sure why. But according to the data from 2018, 8.7% of plastic in that period was recycled, turned into new plastic, whereas 15.7%, nearly double that amount, was used for energy recovery. So this is where the danger of greenwashing comes in. In the US, waste rules are largely set at state level, which means that states can choose how they classify plastic recycling. And a lot of energy recovery, so burning the old plastic, what has been recovered, the chemical has been recovered from the plastic, is treated as plastic recycling. Now, for true environmentalists, people that care about the circular economy, well, this isn't contributing to the circular economy, it's still creating pollution that stays in the air for hundreds of years, effectively forever. And so that's why people say a lot of this chemical plastic recycling is BS, and companies can get away with calling it recycling when in actual fact they are just burning fossil fuels. Things are very different in the EU. In the EU, recycling has a very strict legal meaning. It only counts as recycling when waste is actually turned into new plastic products. If it is burned for energy, then it does not count as recycling. It's classified as energy recovery. And that distinction is very important because it does mean that firms can be held to account on exactly what they are doing with this chemical pyrolysis recycling process. Is it contributing to the circular economy, so turning a plastic product into another product that can be used, or is it turning it into fuel which is burnt to the environment and breaks that cycle? So that was the debate I didn't quite want to get into in the video. I tried to, and it was too distracting from the overall narrative. So is the EU system better? I mean, it does depend a little bit on what you care about. I mean, the EU approach is generally stronger for clarity and preventing misleading statistics, because it separates true recycling from the burning of fossil fuels for energy recovery. Because at the end of the day, recycling isn't just about what we collect. It's about what actually happens to the material at the end of the process. And the way we define that can change how green the numbers actually look. So if you haven't done so already, please do check out the chemical recycling mini documentary I put out. And please do like and subscribe to these videos, to this channel, as I try to build up this environmental documentary series.